Charlie, this week's issue, print edition of the Georgia Straight, also has to do with education. We've got a lot of education coverage. Can you tell us about some of the stories?
Yeah, one of the stories Carlito Pablo, one of our reporters, wrote about was the strike. So the last thing I'll mention about that was that Patty Backus, who's the chair of the Vancouver School Board, is saying that parents are getting quite agitated, and this labor dispute has undermined the preparations. So there may be problems with timetables. Even if they do have a last-minute settlement and the students go back, it's still going to be very chaotic at the outset because they haven't been able to do the preparations. So that was one story. Another story I wrote about, which was really a reflection of the economy. I think it's tougher for young people to find jobs that pay a decent wage and offer benefits. So I think what we're seeing is more young people are getting interested in entrepreneurship. And I think part of it is the sign of the times. You see people like Mark Zuckerberg or Richard Branson. These people become kind of like folk heroes or at least well-known personalities. And so I did a survey of the different business schools to find out what the different programs were and what the differences were, say, between UBC, SFU, Douglas College, BCIT, because they all have different things that they offer.
And what did you find after doing that survey? Are there some schools that you think are better than others?
Well, I didn't attend them, so I can't say that, but I can say the differences are in terms of like BCIT has a 10-week intensive program, an accelerated venture program, where everything is thrown at you very quickly, and accounting, human resources, finance, all the things, marketing, and you go in with a business plan, and then they help you shape it, reshape it. You get to talk to people who've had successful businesses. One of the students I spoke to was a 19-year-old girl, actually, Charlotte Forbes, and she's started a fashion, kind of an apparel company called Aller, like the French word to go.
Okay.
And I found it interesting because she's basically taking on Lululemon. and she's 19 years old. But she said to me that the Lululemon clothing, in her view, is good. She wasn't critical of her competitor, but she said it's too expensive and there aren't enough colors so she wanted to do something different. And she thinks if she has a small store, so she's going to open a store in a little while. So it was quite fun to hear her story, but she had gone to the University of Calgary and studied business. And then she said, all I get at the University of Calgary is math, statistics, and it really wasn't helping her get to her goal. So she plans on opening her first store in Vancouver this year. She's got a business plan, 5 years. She's going to be in Edmonton and Calgary. 10 years, hopes to be in Toronto and Montreal. And from there, she's going to conquer the U.S. market.
Wow, that's fantastic. So are going to business schools getting more popular, you would say?
I would say so, because what's happening, particularly on the entrepreneurship, like at SFU, now this fall they're making a 200-level entrepreneurship course available to all students. And then that will offer a pathway to more. Because sometimes when you're studying, like let's say design, I went to this in Chinatown, there's this pop-up store, which has got a combination of design students from Emily Carr and business students from the SFU Beatty School of Business. And they were working together, and they would come up with their idea, and they'd combine their skills, and then they had to sell their products, and these were sustainable products. So one of them was, like a kit to how to repair your clothes, or this band you could put around your Tupperware container to keep your food preserved. So these kind of small business startup ideas. And I think what's happening at SFU is there's a real focus on collaboration, having people of different disciplines coming together and bringing students into entrepreneurship programs or courses who may be studying in other areas. Because I think nowadays in this age of contracting out, that we're seeing a much greater emphasis on consulting and things like that. UBC is making some changes in that regard too, in that undergraduate students for the first time can major in entrepreneurship. In the past, all they could do was major in other areas like accounting. At the graduate level, they're having graduate students in other disciplines coming into the solder school and doing these intensive entrepreneurship, because sometimes the scientists are developing products or trying to commercialize technology, but they don't have the business skills. So you can see the major universities are focusing much more attention on entrepreneurship and not just confining it to business students. And I think that's new.
Wow, that's very interesting. So if you'd like to read more about business schools as well as all of the Georgia Strait's education coverage, you can find that in print this week in the Georgia Strait, as well as online at www.strait.com. Very quickly, Charlie, because I know that by next week when our next Georgia Strait WOW TV airs, Taiwan Fest may be over by then. So I thought we should just talk really quickly about this year is the 25th annual Taiwan Fest in Vancouver, and the Georgia Strait, of course, is a sponsor. Can you tell us a little bit about this festival and your experience of this festival, because you've attended several years?
Yeah, I find it's very engaged with the community. It happens right downtown in Vancouver along Granville Street. And some of the major events, the artistic events, are actually taking place at the former Center for the Performing Arts in Vancouver, which is now called the West Side Church. It's that building designed by Garth Drabinski right across the street from the Vancouver Public Library. So there's a indie music, Fire X is one of the bands that's coming. During the student protests at the legislature in Taiwan earlier this year, Fire X came up with this song, and I've watched it on UTV, on YouTube, not UTV. And very interesting how it reflected the mood in Taiwan. So I think this time what the organizers are trying to do is just demonstrate how social movements are active in Taiwan and connecting with people. So we're going to see some focus there. Another thing they're going to do is, this sounds fun, is Ken Shea is the conductor of the Metropolitan Orchestra in the Lower Mainland, and he's of Taiwanese descent, and he's going to be doing a show in that facility as well with classical music and symphonic performance of movie scores. So they're going to do like famous movies by Taiwanese directors like Ang Lee, so the theme from Brokeback Mountain, but also Canadian James Cameron and the theme from the Titanic. So, and then the other thing that's quite fun at Taiwan Fest this year is they're having this chefs come in from Taiwan. One is a famous noodle chef, one is a famous rice chef, and then they're going to do rice versus noodles and 5 dishes. And then the moderator is Tom Lee, who's a chef. He's at Pastis and also at the Hotel Georgia, Rosewood Hotel Georgia. So Tom Lee's of Taiwanese descent, but he's in Vancouver. So I'm really looking forward to that event as well.
Wow, well, that sounds like a lot of fun. That takes place in Vancouver downtown over Labor Day weekend. Thank you for watching the Georgia Strait on WOW TV. See you next week. 谢谢。
感谢收看今天的大温故事，我们下期再见。